What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. Nice little chill evening going on tonight. Little nighttime action. There's a subject that I wanted to discuss with you guys, and this is a popular subject that I see going around out there, and it has to do with this problem that a lot of guys are facing, and that is that they believe that modern women have unrealistic standards, right? So a lot of guys think they are deemed ineligible or unqualified to date. So I want to talk about this subject with you guys because I think there's a huge piece of information that you guys are leaving out, especially you younger guys. Some of the older guys too, but nonetheless, there's a big piece of information you guys are leaving out. This might be a little bit of a long one, but I want to share it with you guys. Now, the first thing I want to say, because we got to get this part out of the way, some women are just delusional. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, some women out there are just absolutely delusional. I've experienced some of these myself. And to give you an example, this typically only happens when I meet them on dating apps, but sometimes I've experienced this in person as well. But I'll add a woman on Instagram or Snapchat, and, shortly after adding her, maybe not the same day, but shortly after, she'll send out something on her story saying something like, if you're not willing to donate, or if you're not paying, I'm just going to delete you. And they're not sending that to me personally. They're putting that on their story. So let me explain to you why this is delusional, because this is a woman that I'm not even sure if I'm attracted to yet. This is a woman that I'm not even sure if I would sleep with yet. This is a woman that I'm not even sure if I would go on a date with if she were paying. Right? But she's going to put a message on there saying she's going to delete everybody that doesn't send money to her Cash App. Okay? Some women are absolutely delusional and they have unrealistic standards. But these type of women, they're beyond delusional. Okay? They have sold their soul for a $10 Cash App. They say money is the root of all evil. These women are toast. They're gone. Their souls are gone. Okay? This is the type of woman that if she does get into a relationship, her Facebook profile is going to look like a dating app. Right? She can be married with 2 kids. She'll have provocative pictures of herself, maybe a couple pictures of her with her kids, 0 pictures with her husband, because it's literally a dating app for her. She wants to put herself out there, say, this is me, I'm hot, yet I have kids, but if you're of high enough value, then and you want to take us all on, you can have us, right? So she's advertising herself. But these women have no souls that are this way, and it's easy to spot these women, right? It's not hard to see the snakes in the grass. If you're paying attention, you can really pretty easily filter these women out. But to me, the delusional women are irrelevant. I don't pay them any attention. It's kind of like how they say religion and politics are for poor people. They don't mean that literally. There's rich people that believe in God, and there's rich people that believe in their government and voting and all of that. But what they mean is it's sort of bread and circus for stupid people to obsess over, right? And all of these concepts about modern women and how delusional women are, if you want that to be your bread and circus, like you want to go down those rabbit holes and spend all your time researching how delusional women are, by all means be my guest, but for me it's irrelevant. I don't spend any time dealing with it. When I meet a woman who's delusional, she's just gone. My what could be attraction for her dissipates immediately. Right? I realize that she's a soulless creature that has no future. Definitely no future with me. Right? So that's my thoughts on the delusional women. But like I said, there's a little bit of a deeper subject that I want to get into, and there's a piece of information that I think a lot of you guys are missing out on. And that is, you don't understand the dating experience for the average woman out there. Sure, they have more options and more opportunity than men do, but that doesn't mean that their experience is any better. So here's the average dating experience for even an attractive woman out there. She meets a guy that she really likes. You know, he's that guy. She's very attracted to him. You know, it could be something as simple as, you know, it's some dude at the gym or something that she's attracted to, and they get to a point where they're saying hi to each other and bye to each other. It's nothing too much, you know. It's just, you know, they kind of flirt around a little bit. They smile, and she's starting to get a crush on him. She starts to like the guy. Maybe he gets her number. Maybe they go out a few times. And suddenly, as soon as she lets her guard down and becomes emotionally attached to him and invested in him, he pulls the rug out from underneath her, and his attention has moved on to another girl. So now she's let her guard down, she's emotionally invested, and now she's devastated, she's heartbroken. Some of you guys would call this alpha widowed. It has nothing to do with alpha or beta. It just means a guy that she really liked happened to get her hopes up for nothing. You know, he got her all excited and then dismissed her. And that's devastating if you're a man or a woman, but that's the average experience for most women out there, right? They experience that sort of thing quite frequently. So, this thing about unrealistic standards. By and large, most women out there will put off an illusion as if they have unrealistic standards, right? You got to be at least 6 foot, 6-figure income, 6-pack abs. What else do they say? Above a 6 in looks. I don't know. Whatever crap they come up with. And they say they won't go to like cheap restaurants or anything like that, right? So they claim they have these unrealistic standards. But really, they say these things just to gain power over you, right? Just to make you insecure. If a woman says something like, I couldn't date a man who makes less than $80,000 a year, when she knows, based on your job, that you only make $50,000 or $60,000 a year, she's saying that because she wants to make you insecure, because she wants to keep that power over you. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, here's how it works, okay? As I was just saying, you could see a woman who is, you know, kind of like the dominant female of the group, and I don't mean like alpha female or something. I mean, like, she's a woman that sort of leaves an imprint on men that she talks to, right? Like, all the men around are kind of, you know, they're high on her, right? They all smile when she's around. They're all staring at her, checking her out when she walks by. They all have this little imprint going on, like she's left her mark on them, right? Well, you can take a woman like that, and when you start talking to her, she has all this power, right? This perceived power, and you may feel like, you know, because she's this, you know, the dominant female of the group, and she's confident and she's hot, that she is either better than you or she thinks she's better than you. So it creates this false sense of intimidation, and you're intimidated by her for some reason. But then one thing can lead to another, and you start talking to her, and you start to realize that she's getting a little bit addicted to your conversations, right? And she lets her guard down. Again, now the power shifts, right? That perceived power that you thought she had is now in your hands. Now you can sort of control her emotions. You could break her heart, you could make her happy, you can get her excited. You have a lot of power over her because she's let her guard down and she's let you in. But, you have to talk to her and let that shift of power happen. But the whole concept of, her claiming to have these high standards is simply the guard. That's the guard that's up. She's using that to intimidate you, to keep you on your toes, right? To keep you walking on eggshells, to make you insecure so you don't feel like you're big enough to pull the rug and break her heart. But as a man, you have to conquer that step. Okay, you have to just totally delete those thoughts from your mind, right? You have to step up and understand that you're a man, you have testosterone, she's an emotional being, she has a lot of guards up. You can't be weak, you can't be insecure, because men aren't supposed to be simps, women are. That almost sounds funny in this current zeitgeist to say that women are simps. But by nature, when a woman lets her guard down and becomes emotionally invested in a man, women become simps. They will be hooked on losers for years, decades, because they're emotionally invested. They connect with men 10 times harder than men connect with women. It's just a lot of guys are unaware of this because they're trapped in that insecure simp mindset. If they can step out of that, they could move to the next level. But yeah, that's the very simple piece of information that a lot of guys are leaving out. And that's where it's in a man's hands. When a man has the power and the woman is the one who's in her feelings, not the other way around. The man's not desperate chasing women. No, she's emotionally invested in him and he has a lot of power over her. But as long as he manages her correctly, they can have a really good relationship. And he should be faithful. He should treat her well, right? He should take care of her. But he has to have that power. And you could use the term submit, but I just say she relinquishes the power of her own emotions to him and trusts him to keep her contained and treat her right. And it takes a lot for a woman to give that up. But in order to have a healthy relationship, if you want to use the term masculine polarity and feminine polarity, in order to have, a healthy amount of both of those, that's the dynamic that has to take place. So understanding that can really help you out a lot. But with that being said, things like hypergamy, they do exist, which is really blown out of proportion. Hypergamy is not that you have to be 6 foot with a six-pack and a six-figure income and an 8 out of 10 in looks and drive a Ferrari and have an amazing career and pre-selection. It doesn't mean any of that. Hypergamy, from the eyes of a woman, looks like she needs to know that you can unscrew a light bulb. And by unscrew a light bulb, I'm using that as a metaphor for being able to take care of your adult responsibilities, all of your adult responsibilities. That means financially, that means, when things happen in your family, things that, catastrophe happens, a tornado comes and tears your house up, whatever, right? Like, things happen in life. Crazy things happen. Hypergamy is a woman looking at you and expecting you to be competent and resourceful enough to take care of these problems. Does that mean she's going to leave you if you lose your job and you have no money? And maybe some will, but most of them, what it means is if you lose your job and you lose your money, they expect you to be responsible enough to have a plan, to be able to deal with it, to work yourself out of it. It's not necessarily that if you go broke, they leave. It's that if you go broke, can you manage the situation properly? So that's more so what hypergamy is. It's not that you have to be the best guy in the world. Don't think that way. Now, we should also move on to accomplishing that, right? How do you accomplish that? We can say you need to be that, but that doesn't do much good for you. It does a little bit of good, but now you have to become that. So that's another part of this video and another layer that I wanted to get into here. And a lot of people are unaware of this, and I talked a little bit about this in my last video, but I didn't really get too far into it. But there's a little trick that every multimillionaire uses, that every bodybuilder uses, that every social network uses, every pro sports team uses, every pro athlete themselves use. It's pretty much used in every profession by all the world's elites. A very simple method. And that is that they track everything. Okay, everything is tracked. This is how credit card companies keep you hooked, keep you in debt. This is how retailers advertise their products to you. They know exactly what you want to buy. They know exactly what your next purchase is. They track. This is how bodybuilders build the greatest physiques of their lives. They track their calories and their workouts. So, nonetheless, here's my suggestion to you. And I could put this in some sort of a course or something. I'm not going to do that. That's against my ethics to sell information. But I will give it out to you for free. And it's very simple. Anybody can do this. It'll only cost you maybe $50 that I don't receive, but it can change your life in every aspect. So the first thing that you need to do is buy yourself a notebook and download an app to track your calories. Now what the notebook is for documenting your workouts. For example, you bench press 135 for 12 reps, 185 for 10 reps, 225 for 6 reps, whatever. You're writing your workouts down, how much you lift and how many reps you get, because you need a frame of reference. So each week you're either adding weight to the bar or you're adding reps to your sets, right? You're improving. You're building muscle. And you're using the app to track your calories. And it's very simple. Doesn't take much time at all. It's just adding 3 minutes to your daily routine. And within a few months, you'll have the physique of your dreams. Maybe not quite in a few months, but you'll look in the mirror after 4 or 5 months, you won't even recognize yourself. And it's just as simple as writing the stuff down and tracking it. Trust me, it's like magic. This is what everyone does. This is what millionaires do. This is what bodybuilders, it's what everyone does. It's the secret. 98% of people aren't doing this. The top 2% are. Okay? But that's just your physical health. That's your physique. So number 2, you're going to buy a spreadsheet, which you probably already have one on your computer. And you have to document all of the money in that you make, and you have to set up a budget for yourself. So for example, if you get a paycheck for $1,711.47, on that spreadsheet you write 1, 711.47. That's your income. Maybe you get 2 checks of that per month. That's your income. And then you set up a budget: bills, groceries, transportation, and entertainment. Those are your 4 categories. And remember, you have the 1,700 times 2, the 3,400 to work with. So you set a budget for like 3,000. The rest goes into a savings account. You're not going to save a bunch of money really fast, but saving $100 is not stressful. Okay? Having a $25 overdraft with a $35 fee and not knowing what you're going to eat for lunch tomorrow, that's stressful. Right? So you document this, you track your money, your financial stress all goes away, and you start to save money. And there's no shame in being financially illiterate. If you're somebody out there that doesn't do this, you are in that realm of financial illiteracy, but that's okay because you can start doing it now. And don't be ashamed. There's people that make $35 million a year, and 2 years later they're broke because they were financially illiterate. They didn't track these things. But you can make $50,000 a year and live like you're rich because you do track these things. Okay? And again, that's very simple. You only get paid probably a couple times a month, and you just write your budget down. When you spend something, you document it. It only takes, again, everything that we've said so far, we're talking about 5 minutes out of your day, 10 minutes out of your day so far. And the third thing that you're going to do is buy a calendar. And you might wonder why you would buy a calendar. Well, now that you've pretty much, you've got your physical health, your physique, your looks maxing, if you will, you've got that on track effortlessly. You've got your finances on track. Well, why not apply that same exact strategy to your social life, to your relationships? So you buy the calendar because you're tracking important dates. Maybe you're a loner right now. You want a girlfriend, you want a wife, you want friends, but right now you don't have that. Maybe all you have is a mother, a couple of siblings, and one friend, right? Put all of their birthdays in the calendar. Okay, that gives you 5 events already. Write the holidays down in the calendar. Now you've got 10 social events. Maybe you find yourself a girlfriend. You put her birthday in there. Now you've got social events. You've got stuff to look back to, stuff to look forward to. And then you add your anniversaries, you add your important dates, your anything that's important to you, any event that takes place that's important to you, you write it in there. And don't worry, buying a new calendar every year isn't going to be a lot of clutter. You'd be lucky to go through 75 of them your whole entire life. When you're sitting there, you're 80 years old and you have a box and there's like 50 calendars of the last 50 years. You can look through there. Oh, that was when I met Margaret. That was our first kiss. That was when I proposed to her, right? But you want to write everything down. And you're doing this because it's the exact same thing that made you wealthy, and it's the exact same thing that got you physically fit. But you're using this, or you're adopting this same exact strategy for your relationships and your social life. You remember in Breaking Bad when Hank and all the detectives were questioning Gus, and they're like, where were you on May 9th? I don't remember the actual date. Where were you on May 9th? Around 8 o'clock p.m. And he's like, let me check. And he pulls out this little calendar, and he looks. I was at a fundraiser at a Presbyterian church at 8 o'clock. He tracks everything. That was his social superpower, right? He was tracking all the dates so he could stay one step ahead of everybody else socially, right? So you can sort of do that too. And I know it sounds like, what's the point in doing that, right? Like, how is that going to change my life? I promise you, if you do it, you will start to see results. When you physically write mom's birthday on a calendar, your new girlfriend or first date, we're setting up a date for next week and the week after. You're writing them in advance. You're physically writing on the paper. You're planning your relationships. Just watch what happens. It sounds too good to be true. Sounds like it's too easy. But wait and see what happens. Because here's the thing. Tracking is... How do I put it? You know, the credit card companies that keep you locked into their credit cards, the sports teams that win the championships, they use these highly sophisticated systems of tracking data. And a lot of people are scared of the term tracking data. Don't be. This is the future. Just get used to it. A lot of people. It's a very sophisticated system of tracking that allows you to see the errors, see what works, and find out what doesn't. And the big thing, and the reason why this is so important, obviously for fitness, obviously for finances, but for your relationships, is how do I word this? Because it's almost time to shut this one off, but I want to word this correctly before we go. Have you ever heard somebody, have you ever asked somebody if they were in a relationship, I should say? Okay, have you ever asked somebody if they were in a relationship and they replied to you, "It's complicated"? Okay. Well, when something is complicated, they seek out something sophisticated to save them from that complicated situation. For example, if you had a health complication, you would seek out a sophisticated medical facility to help you with this health complication, this medical complication, right? If a woman is in a complicated relationship, she is going to be looking for a man that can provide a sophisticated relationship. And that's what I'm trying to tell you to do, is create a sophisticated relationship. And you do it by tracking what's going on. And that's how you prove that you are able to unscrew a light bulb. You are a man that can take care of his adult responsibilities. You're not physically illiterate, financially illiterate, and socially illiterate. No, you do these very simple routines that turn into very sophisticated systems. You never stress financially. You're always in tip-top shape. And you are always the leader, the most influential person in your social circle, because you have the information. You have the cheat sheet. They don't. Because remember, 98% of people don't do this. They just wing it. But you have a chance to actually apply a sophisticated system. All right, guys. I guess we'll go ahead and shut this one off. But hope this video was somewhat informative. And that's about it for today, guys. Or tonight, guys. I really should have started a fire or something. That would be way cooler. We had a nice little fire going on in the background, but I like the aesthetic that we have going on here where it's black behind me and we've got the tree here. I have a bright light over there shining on me, and we have this little light right here that ran out of recording space. It provides a lot of character right there. I really like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll work something out in the near future. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging on for as long as you have. And I hope this video was somewhat informative, but that's about it for tonight, guys. Until next time, see ya.